Hello, everybody. Welcome to Act 1, Scene 3 of Romeo and Juliet. As I said before, watch it through once, see what you can understand based upon the language that you hear and the emotions that the actors put forth, and then watch it through a second time, following along with the text so that you can get a better understanding of what's happening with the plot and the characters and themes and such. And as before, we'll have a little discussion after the reading. So here we go. Act 1, Scene 3. A room in Capulet's house. Enter Lady Capulet and nurse.
Nurse, where's my daughter? Call her forth to me.
Now, by my maidenhead, at 12-year-old, I bade her come. What lamb? What ladybird? God forbid, where's this girl? What, Juliet?
How now? Who calls?
Your mother.
Madam, I am here. What is your will?
This is the matter. Nurse, give leave a while. We must talk in secret. Nurse, come back again. I have remembered me. Thou hear our counsel. Thou knowest my daughter's of a pretty age.
Faith, I could tell her age unto the hour.
She's not 14.
I'll lay 14 of my teeth. And yet, to my teeth, to be it spoken, I have but 4. She is not 14. How long is it now to Lammastide?
A fortnight and odd days.
Even or odd. Of all days in the year, come Lammas Eve at night, she shall be 14. Susan and she, God rest all Christian souls, were of an age. Well, Susan is with God. She was too good for me. But as I said, on Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. That shall she marry. I remember it well. 'Tis since the earthquake now 11 years. And she was weaned. I shall never forget it. Of all the days of the year upon that day, for I had then laid wormwood to my dug, sitting in the sun under the dove house wall. My lord and you were then at Mantua. Nay, I do bear a brain, but as I said, when it did taste the wormwood on the nipple of my dug and felt it bitter, pretty fool, to see it tetchy and fall out with the dug. Well, shake, quoth the dove house. 'Twas no need, I trow, to bid me trudge. And since that time, it is 11 years. For then she could stand alone. Nay, by the rood, she could have run and waddled all about. For even the day before, she broke her brow. And then my husband, God be with his soul, he was a merry man, took up the child. Yea, quoth he, dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backward when thou hadst more wit. Wilt thou not, Jewel? And by my holedom, the pretty face wretch left crying and said, Aye, to see now how a jest shall come about. I warrant an I should live 1,000 years, I should never forget it. Wilt thou not, Jewel, quoth he. And pretty fool it stinted, and said I.
Enough of this. I pray thee, hold thy peace.
Yes, madam, yet I cannot choose but laugh. To think it should leave crying and say, I, and yet I warrant it had upon its brow a bump as big as a young cockerel stone, a pearless knock. And it cried, oh, bitterly. Yea, quoth my husband, falst upon thy face, thou wilt fall backward when thou comest of age. Wilt thou not, Joel? And it stinted and said, I.
And stint thou too, I pray thee, nurse, say I.
Peace. I have done. God mark thee to his grace. Thou wast the prettiest babe that e'er I nursed, and I might live to see thee married once. I have my wish.
Marry is the very theme I came to talk of. Tell me, daughter Juliet, how stands your disposition to be married?
It is an honor that I dream not of.
An honor? Were not I thine only nurse, I would say thou hadst sucked wisdom from my tit.
Well, think of marriage now. Younger than you, here in Verona, ladies of esteem are already made mothers. By my count, I was your mother much upon these years that you are now a maid. Thus, then, in brief, the valiant Paris seeks you for his love.
A man, young lady. Lady, such a man, as all the world, why, he's a man of wax.
Verona's summer hath not such a flower.
Nay, he's a flower, in faith, a very flower.
Then what say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night you shall behold him at our feast. Read o'er the volume of young Paris's face, and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. Examine every married lineament, and see how one another lends content, and what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margent of his eyes. This precious book of love, this unbound lover, to beautify him only lacks a cover. The fish lives in the sea, and 'tis much pride for fair without, the fair within to hide. That book in many's eyes doth share the glory, that in gold clasps locks in the golden story. So shall you share all that he doth possess, by having him, making yourself no less.
No less, nay, bigger. Women grow by men.
Speak briefly. Can you like of Paris's love?
I look to like, if looking liking move, but no more deep will I endart mine eye than your consent gives strength to make it fly.
Enter, servant. Madam, the guests are come. Supper served up. You called. My young lady asked for, the nurse cursed in the pantry, and everything in extremity. I must hence to wait. I beseech you, follow straight.
We follow thee. Juliet, the county stays.
Go, girl, seek happy nights to happy days.
And exit. Okay, so that's the end of the scene. Let's talk a little bit about that. So what's the relationship between Lady Capulet, Juliet, and the nurse? So their relationship is very different than relationships that we have now. So what's the story there? Who's the nurse? Why's she there?
The nurse really acts primarily even more as the mom than the mother does. I mean, the very verbalization of she suckled from her breast, meaning the nurse's breast, not the mother's. And I believe, and I'm saying this as the nurse, not so much as Juliet, she will speak for herself, but this is like her child. She loves Juliet more than anything in the world. She has taken the role of the mother. And when the mother actually makes it, well, no, this was my daughter, I think the nurse is even a little uncomfortable with that, because Juliet is everything to her. That I know is the relationship of the nurse, as far as I see the nurse towards Juliet. And, Lady Capulet may be the mom, but she feels like she's the mother.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Similar to, how we were talking in the previous scene about, the aristocracy marrying at different ages as opposed to a more common class. It's a similar thing in terms of the responsibility of the mother to the relationship of the child in an aristocratic family, where they didn't really take care of their children after they were born. It was that they hired or brought in a wet nurse to nurse them, and governesses and nurses to raise them, because that's not necessarily the responsibility of the birth mother at that point. So Juliet has grown up with the nurse taking care of her, and while she still obviously views her mother as her mother, there is more of like a bond between the nurse and Juliet than there is socially between Juliet and her own mother.
Okay. And so Lady Capulet, How do you think she feels about this dynamic? Because there's a little bit that comes out. I don't know. I feel like she is a little resentful, especially in this scene with their relationship. I
I
know.
think,
Would you agree? I don't know.
yeah, I think it's very evident in the line where she asks the nurse to go away because they're having like a private conversation, but then she completely changes her mind and says, "Nurse, come back again," because I think that line kind of comes from the motivation of the character in terms of she doesn't really know how to approach this difficult topic with Juliet, because she doesn't have that special bond with Juliet and needs the nurse to kind of back her up. Because the reason why she needs to back her up is because, as Haley mentioned in one of our previous discussions, this marriage is all about not really between love, it's more of a power match. It's about two families, two powerful families coming together. And Lady Capulet really likes Paris because Paris is handsome, but he's also rich. So um, that whole monologue where she's going on and on about how fair he is and how it's like this book, this story that they're writing Lady Capulet's retirement plan. I mean, not that Lady Capulet actually works, but Lady Capulet wants to be in a nice castle in her old age, you know, and Paris can certainly provide that. It's the two families coming together in that way, in a kind of power match, and she needs the nurse to be behind her saying, "Yeah, go for it. He's so handsome. He's so rich. This will be great. We're so excited for you." The nurse is just like, "My baby's growing up," and Lady Capulet's like, "Please marry the rich boy."
So, Nurse,
Yeah.
you talk a lot in this scene. What are you talking about? You've got these long speeches. So what's going on there?
My long speech in a nutshell is I had a daughter of my own. I had a husband. Um, and Juliet and my daughter were close to the same age, if not exactly the same age. And a big earthquake hit. And unfortunately, I believe, took both of them away from her. So as she was suckling in the breast and not liking the what was rubbed on it, and her reminiscent of things of when she had her own daughter. And dare do I say this, but the joke that the husband would be like, "Oh, later you'll end up on your back," could have a whole bunch of meanings, and yeah, it goes there truly. And saying you'll be, ha ha ha, isn't that funny? You're going to end up there later. And just that the nurse is able to find a little bit of humor in her recollecting probably the worst part of her life and the worst time of her life. And just seeing Juliet now, and that's when she says, now you were the fairest I have ever, and I apologize. And it's very humbling when Juliet comes in and says, "Okay, that's enough." Even though Capulet has asked the nurse to stop her reminiscent and her ramblings, it took Juliet to say, "Okay, that's enough," for the nurse to stop and say, "No, you were it. You were the fairest, and absolutely, I'm done now. And I shouldn't be joking like that. I apologize," type thing. But that in a nutshell. And I said that so not feeling, but truly that's it. She took the hardest part of her life and her hardest trauma and was telling it in that one little monologue with a little bit of humoristic twist to it.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the way that she can get the story out, like if you delve into the grief, she'd never be able to talk about it, there has to, that lightness might be, protecting her emotionally.
And I think Juliet knows that. And I think that's why Juliet sees her getting lost in this reminiscent thing. And she's like, "No, let's snap out of it and come to present." And Juliet's probably the only one that could make her stop and come to reality of the present.
Okay. All right, guys. Great job. See you soon.